Welcome to another edition of our program. Today we come to you from the headquarters of the Guyana Water Incorporated because we be having a conversation with the Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Richard Van Charles, on the way forward for GWI in this new year and what you, the residents and Guyanese, can expect from this critical utility company. Dr. Charles, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I know GWI has done quite a lot in 2015, especially under your stewardship. As you became the CEO, GWI has even become even more active. Can you just give us an idea of some of the areas you intend to focus on more intensely this year, 2016?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to more or less explain, but I want to make it very clear too that the outputs of GWI is directly related to the performance of the staff. And I want to underscore that since I'm here, as far as I'm concerned, the staff have been responding to a very high efficiency level. And I am satisfied with their performance. They're very young, good professionals. In terms of the program, we've basically going to be looking at in each of our regions now, because previously they were divisions. So I am now making the change that they will be active as per the regional divisions of the country. So we will see GWI's organizational aspect changing in relation to the regional administrative regions of Guyana. So they're going to be in the budget. We're going to be looking at the organization and management and looking for managerial efficiencies of the system in terms of our performance of our staff, again in response to customers, ensuring that the staff they have all the competencies, especially the technical staff, because we're going to be investing in training significantly in the engineers and the technical people. Even you have a set of workers classified as craftsmen, but they come in without any form of training and are expected to work efficiently. So we're going to be organizing programs for them also. I've appointed one of the engineers, Mr. Brown, Oren Brown, who's going to be in charge of the continuing education for the engineering staff. And we are also going to be looking at the billing efficiency and the collection system. Now, we hope by no later than the end of February, March, every customer will have their bills on a monthly basis, right? And therefore, each customer then has 28 days in which to pay the bill. If after 28 days there's no receipt of that bill, what kicks in is a disconnection system. Because at present, the level of indebtedness to GWI is about probably on the outer margins, $2 billion Guyana dollars. So we have to move aggressively to collect that debt and at the same time ensure that customers pay the amounts for the use of the system. Now, we are also sensitive to the fact that we have to deliver a product that is of good quality and efficiency. So in that vein, we've already started to increase the pumping hours across the country. So you have an average at present time of 18 hours per day, and I'm hoping that we can go to 24 hours per day. And I think we will see greater efficiencies in the system. So that's on the organizational management side, and then looking at ensuring that the staff have got all the tools, the basic tools, which in some cases they do not have, because we've just come out of about 10 days of going through the process of program budgeting and analyzing the budget for 2016 in all of the regions. And in some cases, the staff really are unable to do some of their work properly due to the lack of basic tools. So we've begun to address that and ensure that in 2016 that will be available for them. As a matter of fact, before the end of the first quarter. So that is a priority for us in that way. Then on the issue of water supply, we are looking at in each of the regions, the level of service. And in this vein, the managers and the technical staff in each region and the engineers at the center are going to be going through a training program with some modeling software to ensure we analyze the demand and the supply relationships in each region. So that training with the technical staff should be completed around the third week of February, and it's going to make a difference. And the level of service, we will share those maps with the public, and we are going to be looking at each pumping station and how it relates to the service, the output to supply the customers. You see, it's important for us to understand that, and this has a link to housing, for example. Before you establish a housing scheme, we should be able to do an analysis of the level of service. So if the level of service is not adequate, it makes no sense immediately, unless provisions are in place, of putting a housing scheme without an understanding that we need to ensure that there are additional wells to produce water to supply the additional population. So we're going to be using more efficient tools now to help us and help Ministry of Housing to make those decisions. So across the country, you're going to see on the coast, on the bank, one of the areas which we have to do a bit more intense work in terms of the supply is probably in Region 3. We've had the analysis done, but it's also linked to the reliability of the supply of power from GPL. We have made an approach to Gaisuko for some supply for quite a few of the pumping stations in Region 3. And so we are hoping that we will get a reasonable response from Gaisuko to help us, because the fluctuation of voltage in essence affects the integrity of the pumps. So we have to ensure that that is addressed as quickly as possible. And in this vein, in terms of the supply, we are going to have an aggressive maintenance program. So in each of the regions, there is going to be a maintenance program carried out, and I've had the officers present, and we're very clear what is to be done in the first quarter. And so we're doing program budgeting. So they presented to management what's going to be done in the first quarter, what's the cost, what are the indicators, how we know the reporting mechanisms, which changes a bit how things were done in the past. So you're going to see some new pumping stations along the coast. For example, in Port Morant, which has a failing well, right as we speak. The contract has been awarded, and so they should, they're now mobilizing to start drilling within another week or so. In Sophia, an additional well, and then a series of other wells along the coast. So we have to ensure that is done, but also the issue of the leak detection system, because there are many leaks across the system. What is referred to as non-revenue water which consists of the physical loss and then people who use water who don't pay. But there's significant physical loss in the system. But so having said that, we have a number of teams which are being organized to, and this is where the public can also assist in reporting leaks, because that in essence affects the supply of water to the distribution system. So we want to engage the public in a intense way to be able to call and report leaks. So we are establishing an 800 number with a call center to ensure that the public can call, report the leaks, and in that vein we are going to be looking at the response time of the operational group to repair those leaks. So the call center will operate until 11 p.m. with staff each day, and then the automated system kicks in after 11 p.m. But there is a crew that will be working in each region to seek to repair you are also going to see, if you look along the coast, we've got a series of overhead tanks which have been non-functional for quite some time. So the first tank which has been put back since I came on board, and led by one of our good engineers, Engineer Barron, is the LBI tank. So that is now operational, and so we are moving after that. He has the challenge of going to Sparrendam and then Annandale and further up. And we have the tank at Agricola, and we have 2 tanks in Linden which we've got to activate. So it's that helps to stabilize the pressure and ensure that there's adequate pressure for the distribution system. The other area is the water quality. That is very, very critical for us. And in that vein, the quality of water and the supply of water to customers is critical, but we are also paying very close attention to schools, to restaurants, to health facilities. And so the staff are already aware that these are priorities. So they have to be reporting on what is the supply of water to health facilities, right, to schools, and to eating houses. So we've just resuscitated the lab in a new residence in John Street, the Silver Street, the Silver Street in Campbellville, and there are 2 labs. One is a wastewater lab and water supply lab, in which they are going to be testing the water at the treatment plants and in the distribution system. It is my belief that it is important to share those results with the public. There will be significant improvement in the frequency of the testing across. We have to import the kits. We're now getting that information to import the kits for testing. And in terms of, and the leak detection system is in essence also linked to the quality, because whenever there are leaks, there are possible contamination. in the system by capillary suction, etc. So the leak detection system is very, very critical, both from the point of view of water quality and from the issue of the revenue loss. Right? Now, a lot of our wells have been dug along the coast. You see the high iron content. The wells are dug in what we call A sand and B sand. The B sand wells would have less iron content than the A sand wells. And there are some other factors such as bacteria which may contribute to high iron. But what we are going to be testing this month is the use of a chemical which is used in some other countries of the Caribbean and in Europe, etc., to sequester the iron. So we've done some preliminary testing at 2 stations with the sequest, that's the chemical, and the technicians from the company in Florida were here early last week, they worked with our technical people. And we did some testing on one of the wells that has probably the highest iron, which is in Ithaca, and a well in Essequibo. And the results were pretty good. So we are looking forward to that. We've already ordered the chemicals, and they should be here by January 18th, which is next week. And then the engineers will prepare to set it up, do the testing. We will inform the regional administration and the populace where we are testing. Right? And once that is successful, then I think the water quality will improve significantly, and we wouldn't have the woes of staining the sinks, the clothing, and the toilet bowls. So that is exciting for us, and that we will have some relief. But we are also going to witness an improvement in the filters across the country, which can filter the water. So in Georgetown, at Shelter Belt, for example, there are 10 filters. They're not functioning optimally. So we've ordered the filter medium to replace the nozzles, etc. And we hope that should be ready before May, just by the end of April. We've ordered filter media for Shelter Belt, for Eccles, for Linden, because although Linden is a special project, the original filter media which was there before, which was ordered by the consultants, which was the wrong type of filter media. So that is being replaced by end of February. And so the water quality in Linden, once that is in place, should improve again significantly. We have to look at the restoration of the plant at Friendship. Friendship used to be a water treatment plant. It's not functioning as such, so we are going to be looking at that plant. And then the other treatment plants in Region 6, Region 5, etc. So the investment is to ensure that the product produced by GWI improves significantly in terms of its quality. And so those areas are very, very critical. On the issue of the sewage, we are going to continue some of our work in terms of the stations which are under the GISIP project, which is a project funded by IDB, where 24 of the sewage stations were rehabilitated, refurbished. And I think we have to do some educational work with the populace in terms of what goes into the sewage system and what should not go into the sewage system. In areas such as Alboystown and Charlestown, which have got century-old distribution systems, we're going to commence this year to take those out and put new distribution systems in place. You know, in Georgetown, the distribution system is very, very old. You've got some pipes which are over 100 years old. So we've got to begin that process. It is costly. Sometimes you have to make a call, the distribution system or the production of water. So we're moving gradually now where some of the oldest systems are. Charlestown, Alboystown. We're going to replace one of the large mains in the St. John Road from the seawall to the Square of the Revolution. That's a very large main which is related to the distribution network in Georgetown. Duncan Street is being addressed as we speak. And then a number of other wells are slated for rehabilitation because we've experienced over the last few years a number of failed wells, number of unperforming wells. So we're going to make an attempt to replace or rehabilitate some of those wells. For example, the well in North Rheinfeldt, that would undergo some rehabilitation because once that functions, that increases the supply also to Sophia. And that area, once we can get all of that, we hope that people who are in B field and C field in Sophia will have significant improvement. You know, the water from Georgetown is a combination of groundwater and surface water. So one of the things which we have to grapple with in terms of the surface water in the Lamaha Canal is the human activity along the canal. And we have to work with drainage and irrigation, who controls the canal, to ensure that the human activity doesn't impact negatively on the quality. Although we have to ensure that we purify that water, but in many instances it creates a problem for us. We have people swimming in the canal, and you know, there's in some cases other activities which are inimical to the interest of ensuring that we have a safe system. So we're working with drainage and irrigation. Our members are on the board and so forth. And then we've had a problem because when you use surface water, you've got to use alum to purify that water, take the color out of the water, etc. And a lot of the alum sludge have been dumped into the canal, the Church Street Canal, and actually once the canal, because sludge consists of the alum sludge is about 95% water. But I think because of the problems of drainage in the canal, it's not proceeding into the river. So, but by March, we are going to be having a new system whereby we are going to be extracting the water at the back of shelter belt and having the remainder of the stuff which can be used for landfills or other things. And so we will no longer be putting the alum sludge in the canal. So we've ordered some new tubes which are pretty expensive. But the good thing the water that's going into the canal will be recycled, reused, because as I said, alum sludge is about 95% water. So that is going to be done, I think, by the end of March, and that would also improve significantly. We are also looking at, we have a program which is looking at the energy efficiency of our pumps. We have about 127 pumping stations on the coastline, and our electricity bill is significant. So we are looking at the energy efficiency of the pumps in terms of how much energy we use. And we are also in discussion with a number of entities with respect to alternative sources of energy. We are using solar systems for smaller pumps in regions 9 and 8 and 1. But we want to look at an expansion of the use of solar systems on the coastline with the pumps, so to reduce our cost of production, because we pay very high tariffs, and this is something I hope to negotiate in 2016 with GPL in terms of the tariffs we pay as a utility that is really a public sector company, and to look at those tariffs and see how best we can have a win-win situation in this case. So the whole issue of looking at the sanitation and the water supply becomes critical as we go forward, because we're looking to really service the population, produce a good product, have the efficiencies with the performance of the staff. We will be looking at bringing back into the company some well drilling capabilities. In the 80s, when I was responsible for GWI then, GWI had well drilling capabilities. I think over the years, all of that has been contracted out. But I think we've agreed that we must have some well drilling capabilities within the company, and we're in the process of moving in that direction. We are in touch with, we want to ensure that our staff do have the capabilities under their belts. Now, earlier I said we had a number of failed wells, which is costly to the system. So there are two reasons. One, it could be well drilling competence, or two, our knowledge of the aquifers. So we are now in discussion to get some support and analysis with respect to the aquifers, to be sure that when you drill, you know where you're drilling and most likely where you will get the water. So the hydrological services that we need to have. But it is my belief that there should be some licensing relationship for well drilling companies, and those competencies should be very clear, and certain regulations should be met with respect to the well drilling companies, etc. Whether you are local or foreign. But at the end of the day, we want to ensure that if I spend X dollars on the well, and I have an expectation that it's going to produce about 4 meter cube or whatever, at the end, when it's finished, it's not that I'm getting 0.9, So we've had some very bad experiences, like in Wakanam. So we're now hustling to get the award of a tender to drill another well in Wakanam, and we have to drill maybe 2 other wells in Wakanam, and to look at Leg 1, because those islands require. But we are in discussion with some companies in looking at the communities in riverine areas, whereby we can use the surface water, but use it and purify it before distributing to the population. So there is some new technology for purifying surface water. And in that vein, we have to more or less look at the watershed management across the country. The water for Linden, for example, comes from the Cora Creek right now, and that we have to. There is a group looking at the watershed management, but throughout the country, and in that vein, the relationship with mining activity becomes critical. It's a challenge for the Port Kaituma environment, Bartica. So we have to look at the behavior of different entities and how they impact negatively on the watershed. Because we have an abundant set of resources which can be used and can be purified for use by the population, but we have to ensure that we can address some of the challenges. But with the new technology, I am hoping that we can put in place small systems which can purify the water and distribute to residents in the riverine communities. So that should impact significantly. You will see a new well in Lethem in February, for example, Culvert City. And in Madia, we are now rehabilitating Salbora Creek, and there's going to be another well in Campbelltown and an overhead tank, because remember Madia is going to be upgraded to a township, right? And Lethem township, Mabaruma. So we are focusing on these townships also to ensure that and their environments, that they have adequate water supply. So it's a lot that we're talking about, but I think that our staff will be very busy, and we want to comply with the mission of the organization and the vision to ensure that the sustainable viability and development across the country can be achieved and met.
Well, Mr. Charles, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you and good luck.